about wanting a prenup, it wasn't because I didn't trust her. It was about protecting something I literally poured my entire life into building. She seemed to get it completely. She'd say stuff like, I understand how hard you work for this, and I respect that you want to protect your business. She even told her friends I was being really fair about everything, and I was. I made sure she'd always have security no matter what happened. I set up a savings account in her name, gave her an emergency credit card for anything she needed, and made sure the prenup wasn't just about protecting me. It was fair to both of us. I never wanted her to feel trapped or like she had nothing to fall back on. I wanted her to feel safe with or without me. But then things started changing. It was subtle at first. She'd make these little comments about how married couples should share everything, or she'd send me links to articles about couples who split everything 50-50ths, even their businesses. I didn't think much of it at the time. Everyone gets nervous about marriage stuff, right? Then she started asking more questions about the business. Not normal curious questions, but weird specific ones about profit margins and expansion plans. She'd never cared about that stuff before. She'd sit in when I was having phone calls with my business partners, pretending to just be hanging out, but clearly listening to everything. The real weird part started when she began talking about how she wanted to contribute to the business. Mind you, Tiffany's background is in social media marketing for small clothing brands. Nothing wrong with that, but she's never shown any interest in grocery store operations before. Suddenly, she's talking about wanting an office at our headquarters and suggesting she should oversee our social media strategy. I started noticing other changes too. She used to be super independent about money. Always insisted on paying her share of date nights. Bought her own stuff, you know. But lately, she's been putting everything on our shared card. I'm talking about $500 shopping trips at Nordstrom, fancy spa days, expensive workout classes. When I gently brought it up, she got defensive and said, well, we're getting married anyway, right? What's yours is mine. I kept telling myself I was overthinking things. Maybe she was just excited about the wedding. Maybe she really did want to be more involved in the business. But something in my gut wasn't sitting right. Then last week happened. I was going through some paperwork in my home office when I found it. A copy of our prenup agreement, except it wasn't the same one we discussed with our lawyers. Not even close. This version had all these extra sections about profit sharing, business ownership stakes, and how she'd be entitled to half of everything, including future expansions, even if we got divorced after just a year. I must have read it 20 times, each time thinking maybe I was misunderstanding something, but nope. Someone had clearly made major changes to our agreement. I remembered how Tiffany had casually mentioned she was having a lawyer friend look over the paperwork. Turns out she did way more than just look it over. All I could think of at that moment was that the Tiffany I fell in love with would never do something like this. She was always so supportive of my business, always proud of what I'd built. Now I'm wondering if I ever really knew her at all. After finding the modified prenup, I spent like 2 hours just sitting in my office trying to calm down. I kept reading through the changes, and guys, it was worse than I initially thought. Not only did she add stuff about getting half my current stores, but she also snuck in clauses about future expansions. There was even something about getting a percentage of online sales. We don't even have online sales yet. It's just in the planning phase. I called Tiffany and asked her to come over. Tried to keep my voice normal, but she must have sensed something was up because she started asking if everything was okay. I told her we needed to talk about some paperwork. She said she'd be over in an hour. That hour was the longest of my life. I laid out both versions of the prenup on my desk. The original one we agreed on and this new version. I also pulled up my bank statements showing all her recent spending. When Tiffany arrived, she was wearing this fancy new blazer I'd never seen before. Found out later, it was a $900 purchase from last week. She walked in all confident, giving me a kiss like everything was normal. But as soon as she saw the papers on my desk, her whole attitude changed. I started really calm. I just held up both versions and asked, "Can you explain why these are different?" She tried playing dumb at first, saying she didn't know what I was talking about. So I got specific, pointed out the new clauses about profit sharing, the expansion rights, everything. You guys want to know what she said? She looked me straight in the face and said, "Oh, those? They're just standard protections. Any smart person would have them in their prenup." Standard protections? I've been in the grocery business for 10 years. I know tons of other store owners. None of them have prenups giving their spouses rights to future business expansions. That's not a thing. I pointed to the clause about her getting decision-making power in the company. Asked her what she knew about running grocery stores. She got all defensive, saying she's been learning about the business and how she deserves a say in our future. The thing is, Tiffany's never worked in retail or anything close to it. She's been doing social media for small fashion brands, making Instagram posts about dresses and stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but it's totally different from managing grocery store chains. She's never dealt with produce suppliers, inventory systems, or store operations. Then she started with this whole speech about how I clearly don't trust her and how she's just trying to protect herself. She actually said, "What if you decide to leave me after I've invested years in this marriage?"